Good evening and welcome to the August 20th, 2025 Board of Douglas County Commissioners 5:30 business meeting. Paper copies of the agenda are available for those here in person. The full packet is available on our website. Viewing our agenda, first we will consider our consent agenda. There is one item on our consent agenda. After our consent agenda, we'll have general public comment. We welcome general public comment for addressing issues not on today's agenda, but otherwise related to county business. Given our time and the need to have an orderly and efficient meeting, we apply certain rules regarding public comments. We'll do our best to enforce these rules consistently and without regard to the point of view expressed by the speaker. Here are the rules. Each speaker will have a limited to I'm hitting the rewind button. Each speaker will be limited to a total of 3 minutes of speaking time. However, we'll expect public comment of any length in writing. Individual speakers may not donate unused time to other speakers. All comments must address topics within the jurisdiction of the County Commission. And 4, we reserve the right to mute and remove any speaker whose comments are threatening, aggressively hostile, or belligerent. Campaigning for public office during public comment period is not allowed. Please give your full name and address for our meeting minutes and address your comments to the Commission. Please also know that the comments received by the Commission during our meeting do not necessarily represent the views of Douglas County government, but we value the input. We don't usually respond to general public comments on the spot, but if you leave your contact information with county staff, we will try to get specific questions answered. After that, we'll move to our regular agenda. There are 0 items on our regular agenda this evening. I'm going to skip that part. Lastly, a recording of the meeting will be available on the county's YouTube page and website. With that, commissioners, is there anything any commissioner would like to have removed off the consent agenda? Anyone here in the courthouse or online have an item to remove from the consent agenda for further discussion? I would welcome a motion on the consent agenda.
I move to approve item 1.1.
Second.
Moved and second. Any further comment? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. We'll move to general public comment. Is there anyone here who'd like to provide general public comment this evening? Ask you to come on up. There is a sign-up sheet. Thank you. You're welcome to give your public comments and then sign on the sign-in sheet if you like. Matt, push the button. There you go.
All right, thanks. My name is Matt Dickey. My zip code is 66049. I'm a member of Lawrence Tenants, and I'm here to speak to you all about how tenant right to counsel is a uniquely effective way to prevent evictions and homelessness in Douglas County. From the moment a tenant receives a 3-day notice on their door, they could be out of their house within 2 weeks' time. Imagine if you had to move in 2 weeks from today and had nowhere to go. We have spoken to tenants who were only behind 1 month rent or $700, whose landlords filed for eviction. For many people, that's 1 paycheck. For others, that's much more. With the cost of living continuing to rise without a comparable increase in wages, that means that if a person loses their job, they could be out of their home within 3 weeks. We need to protect this basic human necessity, and that right begins with adequate legal representation for tenants in eviction court. In the tenant right to counsel model, tenants receive free legal representation in eviction proceedings. These programs are part of a larger push for civil right to counsel, access to justice, and legal representation in civil court cases. This movement recognizes the significance of civil court proceedings in the lives and well-being of all Americans, particularly those who are low income or historically marginalized. Right to counsel for tenants begins the process of addressing a major and unique gap in civil rights. Self-represented tenants are typically unaware of their rights and unable to raise defenses or navigate the eviction system, putting them at a severe disadvantage. Mediators and other non-legal providers are not able to argue on behalf of tenants in court or even help them identify a valid counterclaim, leaving the core power imbalance unaddressed. There is no substitute for full legal representation for tenants in our rights. These programs are effective and fulfill a specific and essential need nationally in municipalities where tenants do not have the right to representation in eviction court. Over 90% of cases are decided in favor of a landlord. The tenant right to counsel programs, that statistics flips such that a majority of cases where tenants have a lawyer are found in favor of the tenant. We have counterclaims. We are facing the reality that landlords often serve illegal evictions motivated by a desire to increase profit, retaliate, or discriminate. We need this right to be guaranteed to renters in Douglas County. With grant funding, Kansas Holistic Defenders has already provided representation to 135 households facing eviction and legal representation resulting in nearly 78% of those cases being decided in favor of the tenant. This shows that when local tenants have access to a lawyer, illegal evictions are prevented in Douglas County.
Matt, sorry, your 3 minutes are up.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Hello, my name is Cornelius Baker. I am at zip code 66044, and I'm also a member of Lawrence Tenants, and I will be talking to you all about how tenant right to counsel supports housing justice.
Can you say your name one more time for me?
Yes, Cornelius Baker.
Thank you.
As you know, in January 2024, Douglas County approved a housing and homelessness plan titled A Place for Everyone. That specifically focuses on housing justice and access for particularly marginalized groups like BIPOC, LGBTQ plus households, households with children, especially with single moms, low-income seniors, survivors of domestic violence, and those with disabilities, among other groups. This plan includes revision to establish tenants' rights to counsel legal representation in Douglas County, which is uniquely suited to support the rights of the aforementioned groups as well as tenants at large. The loss of housing is a matter of life and death and disproportionately affects marginalized and oppressed renters. Black tenants are affected at nearly 2 times the rate of white tenants in the US. LGBTQ plus tenants of color and Black mothers face some of the highest rates of eviction for reasons rooted in historic and current racism and gender inequity. Indeed, the deck is stacked against all tenants. Across the United States, tenants have attorneys in about 3% of eviction cases, where landlords have attorneys about 82% of the time. The individuals facing the loss of homes, and in many cases, the subsequent devastating consequences of homelessness, find themselves in a fundamentally unfair trial. Landlords, by the nature of the arrangement, are in more resource and powerful positions. They have access to the full legal and physical force of the sheriff's office to forcibly remove evicted tenants. Loss of housing is high stakes, and people lose their jobs during evictions. Children get taken into foster care, precious personal property is thrown to the curb, and this is especially egregious when we consider that the majority of tenants who end up in eviction court have a valid counterclaim that is the absence of tenant right to counsel programs. They will mostly go unheard. While the tenant faces these devastating life consequences, often at a time when they are least likely to be able to afford a lawyer, their landlord arrives in court mostly with a lawyer and certainly far less to lose. So tenants deserve a fair shake as well. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Cassandra Barrett, 1414 Connecticut Street, 66044. I'm a member of Lawrence Tenants, and professionally I work with children and families with disabilities. I'm not speaking on behalf of my employer tonight. But I would like to talk a little bit about tenant right to counsel and how it's an effective policy for improving public health and the lives of children in Douglas County. There's a significant body of research indicating that eviction has tremendous negative health impacts on tenants. These can include things like diabetes, heart disease, lung disease, depression, toxic stress. And tenant right to counsel is a uniquely powerful program to prevent evictions by driving down the number of illegal and retaliatory evictions that you heard about earlier tonight. These are actually fairly common, and they're well documented in communities who adopt tenant right to program projects that they are quite common. Landlords are much less likely to file these spurious evictions if they know that they are going to face a tenant's lawyer in court. Mediation programs do not hold them accountable in this same way. Over half of evicted households in the US include a child. We know that evictions are associated with developmental delays, In children, decreased scholastic performance, increased school absence and disciplinary actions. An eviction is a traumatic event for a child, disrupts their safety nets, friend groups, routines. This disruption of community also has a disproportionate impact on our elders and individuals with disabilities. Some of the folks who are at the highest risk of being evicted are also least likely to be able to afford a lawyer or have the ability to defend themselves in court. Within Douglas County, our own health department's health impact assessment on tenant right to counsel indicates that it would improve neighborhood safety and stability, reduce toxic stress, improve agency and well-being for renters, and improve health equity and housing stability. These benefits would likely be greatest for tenants who are at the highest risk of eviction, like single moms and disabled renters. Tenant right to counsel does this by readjusting power imbalances that currently disproportionately favor landlords. Tenants in many cases have these legitimate counterclaims related to safety, habitability of their housing that are often never heard in court, given the lack of access to representation. The health department also found that tenant right to counsel would improve environmental conditions in existing housing stock and disability housing rights. We know that such programs hold landlords accountable to properly maintaining properties to meet legal standards, which helps provide those safe, healthy, and accessible homes in ways that mediation programs and simply increasing inspections cannot, given the lack of an enforceable judgment. Please support tenant right to counsel as a sensible public health policy for our community and allow the amazing lawyers that you heard from earlier tonight to expand what they're already doing. Thank you.
Okay, hello. My name is Adriana Flores. My zip code is 66049. I'm a member of Lawrence Tenants, and I wanted to speak to the individual tenants and communal benefits to tenant right to counsel. For individuals who are evicted, the eviction records can't be sealed in Kansas. This directly impacts tenants' ability to secure, safe, accessible, and truly affordable housing because of discrimination from landlords who won't consider tenant applicants with evictions. If the record can't be sealed, this hardship of securing housing stays with you forever. This is the case even if the eviction served to a tenant was ultimately illegal. Many low-income and minority renters receive a legal eviction and evictions where they had a good claim that was not heard in court. Tenant right to counsel programs are uniquely suited to these types of evictions. Studies show that most tenants have counterclaims to an eviction that they can't assert without counsel. The success of tenant right to counsel can be seen in the decrease of the number of evictions after the program is implemented. So this leads to the benefit of the community. Tenant right to counsel holds landlords accountable to following housing codes and safety standards. A tenant right to counsel qualitative study showed that issues addressed through a tenant counsel expanded court awareness and changed judges' consideration of tenants' rights. So, for example, in one jurisdiction where they had tenant right to counsel, increased representation in eviction cases surfaced a pattern of lead-based paint violations, which allowed attorneys to file affirmative cases against the landlords. This is just one anecdote among many supporting how these programs improve living standard and safety for the broader community of renters, and it's even those who will never face an eviction. There is an added bonus. These programs often reduce overall case burden on courts as illegal evictions drop and lawyers for both parties are able to smoothly negotiate peer-to-peer. This is often cited as a benefit from the landlord's perspective too. We know these programs benefit all involved parties while still addressing stark imbalances in power that contribute to housing instability. This discussion on eviction prevention is especially important in a county that has more tenants than homeowners. We look forward to hearing considerations for tenant right to counsel during the work session on September 3rd. Thanks.
Hello, Commissioners. My name is Gabby Sprague, and I'm a member of Lawrence Tenants, and I'm here to speak to you all about how research consistently shows that tenant right to counsel saves money. Oh, I forgot my zip code is 66044. Stout, a financial analysis firm, performed a cost benefit analysis for multiple communities that had implemented such programs and found that for every $1 spent on tenant right to counsel, the administering state, city, and or county save between $3 to $6. That's a 300% return on investment. This has proved true for communities across the country. Hamilton County, Tennessee saves nearly $5 for every dollar they spend on tenant right to counsel. Oklahoma City and Tulsa County save over $7 per dollar spent, and the city of Philadelphia has reported savings as high as $10 per dollar spent. We have no reason to believe that our community would be any different. In great part, this is because keeping people in their homes saves money. According to the Douglas County Report on Estimated Costs of Emergency Services for Homeless Individuals in 2023, provided in October of 2024 to the Commission, emergency services such as ER visits, use of ambulances, jail bookings, arrest by law enforcement, and shelter services for homeless folks accounted for $5 million that year. If we spent money on tenant right to counsel, this $5 million number would likely go down. A review of tenant right to counsel policies published earlier this year by researchers at the George Washington University Law School, School of Public Health, the Princeton's Eviction Lab and the Yale School of Public Health provided the first comprehensive study of such programs across the 5 states, 17 cities, and 1 county that had implemented tenant right to counsel between July 2017 and June 2024. This research consistently shows that these programs are cost-saving, effective at reducing illegal evictions, and keep tenants in their home. Additionally, this and other research provides significant insights into guiding the structure and implementation of tenant right to counsel that we with Lawrence Tenants and our community partners have been able to incorporate into a proposal for what tenant right to counsel can look like in Douglas County. We are excited to present this to you all on September 3rd work session in collaboration with Kansas Homeless Defenders that you heard from earlier, the National Coalition for Civic Right to Counsel, and other partners in this work. We look forward to working together to make tenant right to counsel a reality for renters in Douglas County. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Vince Munoz. My zip code is 66044. I wanted to echo just all the things that were previously said and also address a few points about mediation versus right to counsel, since there was a lot of interest based on the questioning from the work session. So those of us in Lawrence Tenants participated in a county work group on right to counsel, exploring that, doing a lot of fact finding, and just talking about alternatives. We actually met with the Johnson County mediators and had the chance to ask them questions. I asked 2 questions of the mediators in particular that I think shows some of the shortcomings of mediation. The first question I asked was, are mediators in Johnson County required to have actual landlord-tenant legal training? And the answer was no. They don't have legal training. They have training on how to facilitate conversations, which may be important for them, but they don't actually know landlord-tenant law. Another question that I asked, though, was that in instances where they do know the law and they know that a landlord has admitted to doing something illegal, are they allowed to break neutrality and tell the tenant that their rights have been violated? And they said no, they cannot break that neutrality. So a landlord could fully admit to doing something illegal in the presence of the mediator and never be held accountable. And I think that's something that's really important to keep in mind when we're talking about right to counsel versus mediation. The next thing I want to do is just like offer an analogy on this point too. All of you are very familiar with things like EMS and fire services as local government officials. We spend a lot of money on these things because they're essential services. And I think they serve as like an important analogy between right to counsel versus mediation. So for example, lawyers can do everything that a mediator can do, but mediators cannot do everything that a lawyer can do. And this is very similar to things like EMS and fire, right? The fire department, probably 90% of their calls are going to be medical in nature. So you might look at that and say, well, why don't we pay for a cheaper EMS service and just, not have a fire department at all. EMS people have lower credentialing, so you can pay them less often. It might be a cost-saving measure and covers most of what fire would cover anyway. But the thing is, you want the fire department for the 10% of cases where they're really needed, right? And so, again, lawyers can do everything a mediator can do. Some of the lawyers who spoke at the work session talked about working out deals and not litigating. But a mediator cannot do what the lawyers can do. And so these are not comparable programs. The Right to Counsel does a lot more. So thank you for your time. And also, we look forward to even talking about our proposal in even more detail on September 3rd. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Anyone online, Sarah? Okay, thank you for your public comment. We'll close that and move to our regular agenda. There are no items on our regular agenda, so we'll move to appointments. Don't think we had,
I don't think we're quite ready to make
Quite
any
ready.
appointments just yet, unless somebody's got something. I think we're still working on some.
they want to appoint somebody? Okay. Moving on to Commissioner or Administrator Miscellaneous. We typically start with Sarah's memo.
Commissioners, just a real quick memo attached, just some updated dates. Next week is we do not have a work session, and it is the 2026 budget public hearing at the 5:30 meeting. That's all I have for you, Commissioners.
Commissioners, any miscellaneous items?
Just looking at scheduled events to see if the Watkins event if we need to post the Watkins event, I think it's at 5 o'clock.
5 to 6.
Yeah, if you'll have 3 there, I'll have Robin notice it. Will you
Yep,
have 3
I'm
there?
going.
Have 2 there, 3? Okay, I'll have Robin notice it.
Might get there for a bit. And then the stadium tour.
Okay, I didn't know that we
are
would,
there any
gonna have
others?
more than, do we have 2 commissioners
2.
there?
So we're good.
Okay.
All right. Anything else, Commissioners?
Yeah, I went, might tell you about the trip I took to Bircham Park last week. Got invited by Rick Renfro to take a tour over there. Julie Murray, the chief of staff for the chancellor, was there, along with Sean Lister, who's assistant athletic director. They've had concerns in the area about the rowing team and the need for, well, I guess they've hired security to come in when the rowing team comes over there to practice. I understand that camping will be banned over there after September 15th when the new pallet village of 24 units opens up out by the shelter. And Sean Lester had also talked to Mr. Allen about people camping on his property. I was over there 2 or 3 weeks ago and saw some people on his property. Current county regulations require that if you allow people to camp on your property, you provide water and sanitation services to them. That's not currently being done. And I think Mr. Allen has said that once the park is cleared, he would no longer allow camping on his property over there. So that's my update on that trip.
I have a couple small updates. We are working on scheduling a follow-up conversation with Lucy Hallett from Senator Moran's office on that Haskell conversation. A lot of great partners that are in that conversation. So we had an hour and a half last week, and then next week we're going to also schedule another follow-up meeting. Still hoping that we've got Haskell students have a way to go to DC and have conversations on the Hill also, but that one's being scheduled not through me. And the other is that I told you I was in conversation with the scheduler for Congressman Mann. That continues to be the case, but my hope is dwindling that he's going to follow through with meeting with elected officials, which was the promise that was made to constituents. So still, I found some other people to ask within his staff, so still working on that, but just thought I'd give you the update, which is no update.
Thank you both. Any other miscellaneous item? All right, with that, we are adjourned.